Hello and welcome to today's Facecast. Today we're in the Old Testament book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 11. Now what's Isaiah there for? Well, he's a prophet of the Old Testament. He's there to lead the people back to God, to tell them of their errors and their bad ways, and to say that they need to turn and return to the ways of God. And in doing that, Isaiah needs to explain to them who God is and remind them, not just that immediate generation, but generations of Israelites. And so there's a passage, and there are many passages of exhortation of God, exhorting him, building him up, edifying him, and reminding the people who he is. Seems a strange thing to have to build up and edify and praise somebody that you're calling your Father in heaven and the great and wonderful omnipotent God. It almost sounds as though we need to boost God's ego by doing it, but that's not the case. By exhorting and building up and reminding ourselves who God is, we also remind ourselves who we are and who we aren't. We aren't God ourselves. Now, in some countries around the world and in some dynasties, there have been people who've assumed the position of God. It's a bit like that in Russia at the moment, isn't it, with Vladimir Putin? They tend to regard him as a god who's leading the Russians forward into a new era. And it's been the case with kings or queens or rulers down the ages. They themselves want to be revered in a godlike manner, or they are treated that way by the people that they lead. Isaiah wants to point us back to our Father in heaven and say he is the one true God. And in this passage, chapter 40, verse 11, he says this: "He tends his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms. He carries them close to his heart." So this is an explanation of the nature of God. He tends his flock like a shepherd. And a shepherd in the hills, wherever he may be working, in that part of the world or this part of the world, he needs to care for his sheep. That's his job, his role. He must care for them and love them and tend them and look after them. That's what God is doing with us, says Isaiah. He gathers the lambs in his arms. The lambs being the young sheep, of course. So when we are young in spirit, when we are young in our knowledge and understanding of him, he gathers us in his arms. He looks after us. He cares for us. He nurtures us. He gently leads those, he carries those in his heart. He gently leads those who have young. He gently leads those who have young. So he's looking out for not just ourselves personally, but our families too. God wants to do this, and he needs to do this because we are his people. We are his presence on earth. And as his presence, we are required to carry out his work, to point other people to him and continue that good work that he has done in creating us as a people with conscience and heart and love and care and free will. He has given us all of that in order to reproduce him on this earth. Read that again. He tends his flock like a shepherd. Do we tend those around us? He gathers the lambs in his arms. Are we that caring and compassionate? He carries them close to his heart. That means he wants them to know what he is like so that we can reproduce him. Do we do that? He gently leads those who have young. He is caring and compassionate on all those, especially the younger generations. Are we doing the same? Our heritage as Christians in this part of the world says we are, but are we doing so in practice? That's a call for us from the prophet Isaiah for all those centuries ago, and it's still the same for us today. We have to be sure and aware that we are following God and doing his will. That's what he asks us to do. That's the least we can do, considering all that he has done for us. Bye for now.